This is the video. If you watch no other video by me on Minneapolis and the ICE shooting of Renee Good, this may be the one. We're going to go over a legal professional, legal eagle, totally roasting and just shutting up all the MAGA tards. What is the word for their cult? The MAGA tards. I know the libtards on the other side. But what is the name for the MAGA people? MAGA tard? I don't know. I don't know. I just know it's a cult. All right, let's get into the video.
Agent Ross can be seen approaching from behind the SUV and crossing the SUV's right-hand side, all while filming the scene on his cell phone. In the crucial moments before the shooting, Miss Good rolls her SUV slightly forward into the street, then stops and waves at other motorists to go ahead of her. Two agents are seen exiting his silver pickup and approaching the SUV, telling Good to... The SUV backs up, then veers forward to the right. Seconds later, gunfire erupts. Re-examining the scene from a closer vantage point, we see Agent Ross walk around the car while filming on his cell phone, disappearing from view. Other agents pull up and order the driver to get out of the car. But it's not clear who exactly those agents were or whether the driver could hear them. But it's clear one of the agents grabs the car's door handle and reaches inside, but is unsuccessful in forcing the door open. Almost simultaneously, you can see the SUV backing up and turning right in an apparent attempt to leave using a two-point turn. At the same time, Agent Ross crosses towards the left side of the vehicle and grabs his gun with his right hand. To me, it looks like he unholsters his weapon before the car is moving forward. He opens fire on Miss Good and continues shooting as she drives past him. At no point does Agent Ross appear to drop the cell phone carried in his left hand, and that's bolstered by the footage he took on that cell phone continuously during the shooting, which we'll talk about in a second. Looking more closely at the moment Agent Ross fires, he appears to be standing to camera left of the SUV while the SUV's tires are pointed all the way to the right away from him. And things are happening fast, and it's not clear if Mr. Ross is in front of or partially in...
How'd he get that angle? Whoa, 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 whoa. This has got to be AI, y'all, because that was crazy. That you saw that transition right there? Got to be AI because that was crazy what he did. Who's his editor? Wait. Sorry to interrupt it, but that was crazy.
Away from him. And things are happening fast, and it's not clear if Mr. Ross is...
Yeah, they may have had some CGI effect right there because that's like a recreation right there. That is insane how his team is doing this. Legal Eagles got that team, y'all.
In front of or partially in front of the car at the time that the first shot is fired, but it does appear clear that by the time the second and possibly third shots are fired, he is fully to the side of the vehicle. Reports are that the second and third shots were fired through the open driver's side window. It's unknown at this time which of the shots made contact or were fatal. This contradicts the administration's allegations that Miss Good was running him over or attempting to run over Mr. Ross when he fired at her. Although other grainier video footage filmed from a different angle could appear to support this conclusion, but when this footage is synchronized with the closer footage, it's clear that Agent Ross was not run over by the SUV.
You gotta synchronize it. You got to synchronize the footage, or else it's just not gonna make sense. Look how grainy that footage is on top. And lots of people on the right are saying, oh, he got hit because the footage looks like he got hit on the top. But it's so grainy, it's so blurry, it's very hard to make it out. And that's why I think it's actually better to go by this lower angle right here. And so, but even though, you know, there's a grainy image or a grainy video right here, he's still bringing it up and synchronizing it to still give it its due credit. Because if it's real and nothing was altered, they're gonna measure it up to the bottom image and synchronize it.
And in fact emerged unscathed.
So let me rewind it one more time just so you can see the synchronization right here.
An angle could appear to support this conclusion, but when this footage is synchronized with the closer footage, it's clear that Agent Ross was not run over by the SUV and in fact emerged unscathed. After being shot in the head, Miss Good's SUV then veers into a white car parked further down the road before crashing to a stop. The agents witnessing the scene do not appear to rush.
I gotta pause it. I got to, because a thought just went through my head. What if somebody was in that car, let's just say a baby. Let's just say somebody was in that white car that it rammed into. This is why it's not good to shoot somebody driving a 2-ton vehicle, because it's still going to move forward. And he's going to get into that. Legal Eagle's going to get, I don't know his real name, by the way. But I just have to say it. I got to pause it and say it because I'm passionate about this whole thing. I'm very passionate about it. A lot of people don't like me pausing. Just let the video play all the way through and talk about it later. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm too passionate about this thing. I'm sorry. But it doesn't make sense if the guy was afraid for his life and he's saying, and people are saying the car is coming straight at him. Why in the entire hell would you shoot somebody, the operator of a vehicle, if it's coming straight to you, knowing that when you killed them, the vehicle is not going to stop? Nobody can answer that because a car is coming straight to me. The driver's right here, or right here, and I'm shooting him. It's still gonna come straight to me, and I'm still gonna die. Anyways, let's continue with Legal Eagle here.
Eventually, Agent Ross approaches the vehicles and instructs his colleagues to call 911. Other agents can be seen blocking several bystanders who attempt to provide medical care, including one who identifies himself as a physician.
I go check a pulse.
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician.
I don't care.
Going back to the footage that Mr. Ross took himself, there's a couple of things that we can glean from this. Number one is that Miss Good appears very calm as a driver, arguably snarky.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
Which might have been her undoing. There seem to be conflicting orders. Some people are yelling, get out. Some are yelling, get out of the car. You can also see clearly from Mr. Ross's vantage point that Miss Good is looking all the way away from him as she backs up and also turns the wheel all the way to the right. In other words, turning to get out of that situation and not towards any of the agents. You can also tell from the footage that the engine is revving at this time, indicating that the car is going to speed up. But at the same time, this is all taking place at a very low rate of speed, close to zero, as she's doing what is obviously a 2-point turn. At the same time that another agent appears to be lunging into the driver's side door in an effort to apparently turn the wheel to the left towards the agents. You can also see Ross switches his phone from his right hand to his left that frees up his right hand to pull out his firearm. But it's also clear that he never drops the phone and continues recording in his left hand while simultaneously taking his firearm out with his right hand and shoots at least twice. It also seems pretty clear that the reason he was arguably in front of the car was for video recording purposes and that at any time he could have gotten out of the way. And I will opine at this time that holding your cell phone in one hand while firing with the other seems pretty reckless, if not depraved indifference to the human life.
Straight burning the MAGA cult, the MAGA tards. I mean, that's what I've been saying, y'all. Why? If you take your job seriously, you're recording with one hand, holding a gun in the other hand. Who does that in any kind of professional capacity, especially when you're dealing with something very dangerous, such as a literal firearm? I mean, people don't, if you're at a restaurant, people don't want you recording and holding a tray of food. What would it look like if your server did that? And he's just holding your plate of food. But this guy is holding a freaking gun and recording. That's a lot, like 100 times worse now.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Now, given the Trump administration's refusal to participate in the investigation, and the fact that this video comes seemingly directly from Mr. Ross's cell phone, it's extremely likely this video was leaked by either Mr. Ross himself or someone in the chain of custody at the Department of Homeland Security. Probably because they think that this video is exculpatory, which seems likely given that it was leaked to a right-wing news source. And as is the case in many instances, evidence can and often does support two diametrically opposed arguments at the same time. But from all angles, the video footage depicts a hostile, clumsy, and unnecessarily violent operation. It is possible that a jury would believe an objectively reasonable officer would believe that deadly force was necessary to protect him or herself from death or great bodily harm when they're standing in front of, or at least partially in front of, a moving vehicle. The statute itself says that the decision of the peace officer to use deadly force is evaluated under the totality of the circumstances, which, quote, shall account for occasions when officers may be forced to make quick judgments about using deadly force. And you could certainly imagine a situation where a driver was driving 100 miles an hour directly towards an officer with the intent to kill that officer. Of course, this doesn't appear to be that situation. The SUV's tires here appear to be pointed away from Agent Ross at the time that the first shot is fired, which would undermine the self-defense claim under the state statutes. Her hands appear to be turning the wheel to the right. Further, at the time that the first shot is fired, the car is not speeding towards Agent Ross, but rather pulling away at an extremely low rate of speed. Thousands of motorists are pulled over every day. Revving the engine doesn't give the highway patrol a license to murder the driver.
Straight bombshells, y'all.
And it's much harder to make the argument that you were acting reasonably and fearing for your life while recording video continuously in one hand and pulling out your gun in the other like Akimbo Deagles. But certainly nothing.
What did he say? I don't know what he said, but I think he was doing a reference probably to a movie actor or something. Let me rewind that.
video continuously in one hand and pulling out your gun in the other like akimbo deagles.
Akimbo deagles? I don't know, akimbo. Anyways, I know he's making a funny joke there that I'm not getting because I can be slow sometimes or just not catch the reference. But he's pointing out how stupid it is for the officer supposed to be acting as a professional to be recording and literally trying to kill somebody at the same time. The literal weapon that it's not a toy, but he's treating it as a toy. He's like a baby in a grown man's body, essentially.
But certainly nothing is a given when prosecuting law enforcement officers, just ask Rodney King. And section 609.066 is extremely favorable to the officers themselves. But it's also possible that the analysis is different for the subsequent shots or shot fired by Mr. Ross and may not be justified under the Minnesota statute. Unlike the first shot that Mr. Ross arguably took in front of or partially in front of the vehicle, these later shots were taken from the side of the vehicle. Assuming that Ms. Good has committed some sort of felony here, the U.S. Supreme Court has addressed the use of deadly force in the apprehension of a fleeing felon in Tennessee v. Gardner. There, the court explained that, quote, the use of deadly force to prevent the escape of all felony suspects, whatever the circumstances, is constitutionally unreasonable. It is not better that all felony suspects die than that they escape. Where the suspect poses no immediate threat to the officer and no threat to others, the harm resulting from failing to apprehend him does not justify the use of deadly force to do so. Here, interpreting the Minnesota statute under the limitations imposed by Garner, it's difficult to conceive of any reasonable grounds for Agent Ross to believe that Ms. Good's attempt to drive away from the ICE agents would cause death or bodily harm to anyone so as to justify her shooting. To defeat a claim of self-defense, the state must disprove beyond a reasonable doubt that at least one of the four elements of self-defense, the absence of aggression or provocation in the part of the officer, to the officer's actual and honest belief that he was in imminent danger or death or great bodily harm, and that the action taken was necessary to avert that danger, the existence of reasonable grounds for that belief, and the absence of reasonable possibility of retreat to avoid the danger. And I think a jury would be hard-pressed to find that Mr. Ross did not engage in the aggression or provocation that ultimately resulted in the shooting. Video footage shows Mr. Ross approaching Ms. Good's SUV, encircling it on the right side as he takes video with his phone, and re-emerging near the driver's front side of the car. And
I don't like this whole interaction. You know why? Because the lady is probably not expecting the second guy. It's like little buzzards encircling a vehicle, and it's like they're distracting her, or one is distracting her from the other officer. It almost seems like a setup to me, y'all. And I'm just now kind of noticing this and putting it together. So one officer is literally grabbing at the door, going through the window, as you can see on the screen right here. Look at that. One officer's doing that. The other officer's literally going behind the car, and her attention is not on him, on the guy in the front. Her attention is on the guy literally grabbing at her door. So while her attention is there, this little slick, little slimy slug, this little snake is going around the front, and she's not even noticing him. So it's like that even gives more evidence that she's not trying to kill that man, because she's paying attention to the officer on the side and wanting to get away. So she reverses, and when she literally puts it in drive, just about at the same time she puts it in drive, that's probably the first time that she notices the guy that's close to the front of her car. So it's like she just wants to get away at this point, and the second officer is literally just doing dumb stuff, recording and circling the vehicle like a little hawk or a raven, whatever he's doing. It's stupid. It's just dumb.
first draws his gun as the SUV reverses away from him. And while the aggressor in an incident generally has no right to claim self-defense under Minnesota law, an original aggressor can still claim self-defense if he actually and in good faith withdrew from the conflict and communicated that withdrawal expressly or impliedly to his intended victim. But here, the video footage shows no withdrawal or communication of withdrawal. To the contrary, it shows Mr. Ross originally instigating the incident and then proceeding with the escalation of tactics, nearing the vehicle, drawing his weapon.
Look, as soon as she's about to put it in, go forward, that's when the other officer emerges. And basically as soon as he emerges, he takes out the gun. It's almost like it's premeditated. That's what it looks like. It's like a setup.
And aiming it at Miss Good. And another hurdle facing Mr. Ross in a self-defense analysis is his failure to retreat. A valid self-defense claim requires the, quote, absence of a reasonable possibility of retreat to avoid the danger. And the Minnesota Supreme Court has explained that a reasonable opportunity to retreat exists if there are, quote, options for escape or avoidance of peril rather than directly confronting someone. And here the video footage shows that Mr. Ross had time to get out of the way of the SUV because he did. Mr. Ross was not trapped.
He had time to get out of the way of the SUV because he did, while literally pulling out a weapon.
He was not unfettered in his ability to escape, back away, or otherwise protect himself. And in fact, he had the opportunity to take out his gun and shoot the driver. If I
Look, somebody who knows the freaking law is making the same statement, if I could talk, the same statement that I said. You got all the time in the world to withdraw your weapon, point it, aim it, and just, you got adrenaline going through your body. Why is that your first reaction? The reaction time of human beings is not as quick as animals. And so we have limited time to get out of the way of danger. Why would your first response to get out of the way of danger, if you truly think you're in danger, is to pull out your weapon and then you have to aim it and then take a deep breath, pull the trigger, or whatever you do when you make sure you want to shoot something on target. It takes time. It takes extreme mental fortitude and focus to do that. That's not the quickest response that a human can make. The quickest response is literally just evading. If you truly think you're in danger, just take a sidestep. The turning radius of a vehicle is not good, especially like that big. The body is so much more agile than a freaking 2-ton car. And it has a limited turning radius. So all you got to do is a little sidestep. If it's going 3 miles an hour, very slow, do a little sidestep. You're outside the turn radius of the freaking vehicle. Anyways, if he knew physics and the law, yeah, I think anybody that knows physics could debunk this extremely well, without a shadow of a doubt. If they understand physics and could prove through physics that the human body, the reaction time and the turn radius of the car and the amount of force needed to evade and just the distance needed to evade to be in a safe distance, it makes much more sense to just sidestep out of the way if you truly think you're in danger.
I was the prosecutor, I would certainly argue that a reasonable officer would have done everything that they can to get out of the way first before even thinking of unholstering their firearm.
Legal professional, y'all. And I think his opinion is even stronger than the actual officer's opinion, because the officer is not a legal professional. They know some of the law, but not all of the law. This is a literal, he knows the law. He knows what he's talking about. People think I'm stupid, y'all, but he got hit.
Firearm. And of course, maybe put the video camera down too. Mr. Ross did neither and still was seemingly unscathed. This failure to retreat or safely avoid the confrontation before resorting to force likely dooms any claim of self-defense in a non-peace officer scenario. On top of that, the state could argue that Mr. Ross did not have a reasonable basis to believe that he was in imminent danger of death and that the discharge of his firearm was necessary to avert that danger, because an objective standard applies to the amount of force used. In other words, the force must be proportionate to the threat and limited to that which would appear to be necessary to a reasonable person under the circumstances. Lastly, it's come to light that Mr. Ross is a 10-year veteran of ICE and was involved in the prior months in a similar situation that did result in his injury. And although Mr. Ross would likely argue that his past experience of being dragged by a car in a previous ICE enforcement operation demonstrates his actual and honest belief that he was in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm, the state might use that same evidence to show that he was still traumatized by that incident and his belief was unreasonable. Now, as if the shooting itself couldn't have gotten any worse, towards the end of the video footage, we see other federal agents impeding a physician's attempt to render aid or to check the pulse of Miss Good as she lay slumped over the steering wheel of her car. Witnesses also report that ICE vehicles blocked an ambulance that arrived on the scene. These obstructions of medical aid could prove further grounds for liability against the agents under Minnesota law. Minnesota Statute Section 609.662 imposes a duty to render aid to shooting victims. Specifically, the statute provides the quote, "A person who discharges a firearm and knows or has reason to know that the discharge has caused bodily harm to another person shall 1. Immediately investigate the extent of the person's injuries, and 2. Render immediate reasonable assistance to the injured person. If the victim suffers death or great bodily harm as a result of the discharge, the person who discharged the firearm is subject to imprisonment of up to 2 years and or fines up to $4,000. Here, although Mr. Ross does appear to take his time in checking on Miss Good's condition and instructing his colleagues to call 911, his response might be deemed inadequate given that he's whisked away just seconds later. But it's also possible that response does meet the statutory obligations. Now, to the extent that ICE agents might have deterred bystanders and ambulances from reaching Miss Good to administer aid, those agents may also be liable under Minnesota Statute 609.50, which prohibits the obstruction of legal process. That law subjects liability to anyone who, among other things, intentionally interferes with or obstructs a member of an ambulance personnel crew who is providing or attempting to provide emergency care. And the reports are that it took a significant amount of time for the ambulances to appear. ICE agents did not allow ambulances to park next to the victim.
Are you kidding? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I just knew that they denied somebody who said that they were a doctor or physician, and he was like a random guy walking around and said, hey, you know, I'm a doctor or physician. I forgot exactly what he said, but he basically was trying to help, and they denied him. But I didn't know they stopped literal ambulances. I didn't know that. Let me rewind that.
As ambulances to appear, attempting to provide emergency care. And the reports are that it took a significant amount of time for the ambulances to appear. ICE agents did not allow ambulances to park next to the victim, and as a result, they were forced to walk a significant distance.
That is evil. I didn't know that. That is wicked. What? Why would they do that?
To render aid. And the penalty for any such violation where the accused knew or had reason to know his obstruction created a risk of or actual death or substantial bodily harm is subject to imprisonment of up to 5 years and fines of up to $10,000.
This dude needs to be, multiple of them need to be in jail. There's more to this video. I'm going to put the link in the description, but I think we're going to end that there. That is crazy. Like, the amount of just, I can't even explain how roasted the stupid right. I'm not saying everybody on the right is stupid. I'm on the right. I'm a conservative. I just think for myself. I'm constitutional, America first. America first, but I'm actually constitutional with it. Put the Constitution into it. When the people that are, quote, America first, they evade the Constitution. They just don't care about it. You know, for whatever means they want to be America first for. They want to make America great again. MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. But they don't care really. They don't really care about the document that the country was founded upon, the Constitution, and they violate the Constitution. As you've seen in the Trump administration, as you've seen in the literal lies that have happened during Trump's second term, just lie after lie after lie, redaction in the files, and then this situation and ICE just going against our constitutional protections as American citizens is absolutely wicked. The quote, America first, we're going to make America great again, but we don't really care about the Constitution. We're going to spy on the citizens. We're going to abuse our power, make a police state, abuse the rights of American citizens. Absolutely disgusting. I'm constitutional American first. CAF. Let's go. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. May the Lord keep you. May he bless you. May he shine his face upon you always and give you peace. Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and you shall be saved.